There are around 8 million species on this earth that we live in, including the worms, the insects, the dogs, deer, lions, birds, fish, ducks, and humans. There are literally 8 million species. Out of that, human species is just one. Now, what is the probability that you and I will not be born as a human? It's so rare, right? We are born as humans in itself is just a chance of 1 in 8 million. So many people know that human birth is very rare. Hardly few of the people recognize the significance of this birth and the value of human birth. Now, why is it that we are not able to recognize the value? Vedas say that every human being can live up to a span of 100 years. Now, out of that, the first 15 years are the wonderful years, if you think about it. The first years of a human, most of them is spent in either infancy or adolescence, and not much of learning happens, even though a lot of joy happens during that time, a lot of experience, blissful experience. We're not worried about anything, but hardly any learning happens during that time, which is okay. That is okay. The rest of the life is there. We can always learn.
Yeah.
Experience is more important. After 15th year, we enter the 16th year. From 16 onwards, for the next 15 years, a human being tries to stabilize his life in terms of education, in terms of employment, in terms of settling down, identifying the right life partner, and establishing an identity for himself or herself in the society. 30 years passes by. Now, after 30 years, the human being tries to growth in terms of family, financial prosperity, friends, buy new properties, and we keep growing and growing all the way up to the age of 60. Now 60 years have gone by. Now we look at our own life. We have spent pretty much 60% of our life. That is the time that pretty much disease and old age sets in unawares. Until then, we never have even planned for it. Disease and old age starts giving troubles. Now, 10 years, a man, typically in his lifespan, spends running behind taking care of the body, either get medicines or heal and whatnot. And what remains is 30 more years. We think that 30 years is a long time that we can make use of for our learning and to identify what we need. But the 30 years is not accounted for yet. That's what we think. But those 30 years we spend in sleeping. And so they are not at all available for us, for any productive use. So you see, we have spent almost 100 years of our life running after settling down, growing, and realizing that we don't have any time for taking care of ourselves, or to think about if we are leading the life that we wanted to live. I mean, we cannot avoid it. We have to do all these things. We have to grow, we'll have to establish, we'll have to earn, we'll have to, before that, we'll have to acquire knowledge, study, earn, learn, settle down. These are all part of life. We cannot do away with it. Now, the question is, in this 100 years when we spend, are we really living these 100 years, or we exist merely? The difference between living and existing is quite obvious, right? We exist, a person exists is just breathing in and breathing out and eating, sleeping, reproducing. That is what every animal does. And what is the difference between a human and an animal is essentially to decide the right course of life and adapt himself to the right course of life. Whereas an animal, 5,000 years ago, so 10,000 years ago, how a lion lived its life is not greatly different from how a lion lives its life in the jungle at this point of time today. But that is not true with humans. We drastically have improved, right? But at an individual level, should, are there any improvements, is the question that we should ask ourselves. The difference is in terms of living versus existing. A human is living would mean that every moment of life he is just absorbed into himself, into the whole existence of this life, and he enjoys. He radiates energy from within, and without any obstruction, without any inhibition, without any dependency. If only I get some money, right? If only I have a nice wife or a husband. Without that, if only, if we are able to lead a life just for myself, just I have born in this world, I am existing entity, a live entity. Why is it that we, or most of us, are struggling to identify or live a life that is full of experiential? Right? There are many opportunities in this world. If you look around yourself, right, we see a lot of objects, lot of situations that are inviting, right? And we can just plug ourselves into any of those objects and situations. Few of them provide pleasures, and few of the other situations, they don't provide pleasures, they provide unpleasantness. That's what we observe. And yet we are being tossed around between this pleasure and unpleasantness, back and forth in life, isn't it? Just think about it. We have been just a few days just happy, and after that go through just a little bit experiences, just pleasures here and there, and then we hang around and we think there is no wrong in that. Life is all about just that kind of experiencing small kind of just pleasures, and when there are difficult situations, just go ahead and then handle them, right? That is what life is all about. But as long as we are doing it with an awareness and not just drifting away and encountering as an accident, oh, I didn't expect this, right? If you think about most of the people live their life like a ship deserted in an ocean. A ship that is without a man, directionless, it just drifts on and on in an ocean with the wherever the tides of the ocean take the ship, it just goes through. It doesn't have any direction by itself. Whenever the ocean is smooth, whenever the ocean is calm, the ship sails without any movement. Whenever the ocean is rough, the ship cracks and breaks. In a way, most of the people live life just like that ship, which doesn't have any direction at all. We just go the way the world goes, right? If the ocean goes up, the ship goes up. If the ocean goes down, the ship goes down, right? Same way the life goes, just the world operates. We are just aligning ourselves with the frequency of the world. If the world says this is okay, we do go do it. If the world says no, 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 that is not okay, then we don't do it. Most of us look at our friends for our reference because we don't validate ourselves. We don't believe in ourselves as to I cannot make a right decision. So I look at my friends. So most of them do it. Then that means it should be right. Let me do that. That is how many people do it, right? So that is precisely mimicking the ocean and not owning the responsibility. So now the question is the moot point, the question that finally we should ask ourselves is, can I take control of this ship and navigate this ship to the right direction and destination that I wanted to go? That's what we are interested in. And we are interested in also to see if Bhagavad Gita has an answer to give us that handle towards our own ship so that we can decide the destiny than life giving us, right? Life tossing us around with so many situations. We are in control of life. Is it possible? Is the question that we all have in our mind. And we all have assembled today to see if that is quite achievable or not with the help of Bhagavad Gita. Now, why Bhagavad Gita? There are Vedas, there are other scriptures. What is so significant about Bhagavad Gita? Right? The problem with other, especially the Vedas has absolute knowledge about everything in this world and how human beings should live their life. Absolutely. Right? But why we are not reading it is because there are many restrictions in learning the Vedas. You have to be young, first thing. To start learning, the question that a teacher of Vedas will ask you is, are you under this age? 8 years, 7 years. You have to start. By the time you turn 15 or 16, you must have memorized and read the whole Vedas by heart. But we don't have that age. That is one age restriction is there. And then there are few people who are not authorized by the Vedas itself, not by the people, but by the Vedas itself have restriction that these are the people and the observance has to be there. That is the restrictions, not in terms of caste or any such thing, but in terms of observance, of practices, of discipline is so severe that not all of us will be eligible to learn the Vedas. And so that is also ruled out because in modern world, the way that we observe discipline, we know ourselves, right? How much we are in terms of our life and our discipline. So that is also ruled out. And Vedas are again huge. Even if we become eligible for that, it is not possible for a person, a human, to learn the entire world Vedas in one lifetime. Now, that is the problem with other sources of knowledge. That is why Bhagavad Gita is more relevant now, right? And another important aspect, how many of us can always, just think of bhakti? Because Vedas and other scriptures will say that do bhakti. You have to be devoted to God. You have to be devoted to Krishna, and all the time you just think about it. Be like Mirabai, Purandaradasa, Tyagaya. Who can be? How many people are there? Not many people who can be so much involved in bhakti yoga so that they can give their heart and soul to Krishna. We are not like that. We are normal men, human beings, right? That is precisely the reason that Bhagavad Gita is the right source for making us aware of ourselves and to get hold of that ship that is called life, right? Bhagavad Gita is written for a normal man, human being like you and me, who can understand and apply those learnings into our life. And now, why and how? Bhagavad Gita does so does that mean you can easily ask a question? So does that mean Bhagavad Gita says that do not do bhakti? It does say that you should do bhakti, but before doing bhakti, Bhagavad Gita also acknowledges the fact that you may not be able to do that level of bhakti yet. So do whatever that you are doing already. Lead your life the normal way that you are already doing, because we all are just used to living our life doing actions. So things that we always do, we breathe, we eat, we sleep, and we go around, earn money, and run in life. So Bhagavad Gita perfectly fits the profile of the humans. Just keep doing whatever tasks that you are doing and live whatever life that you are living, but yet just have a slight bent of mind. Look at those tasks that you are doing already with a slightly different angle, and say that this work that I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm aware of it. And that awareness is the significance of Bhagavad Gita. So one is work. We all are right now. We are working, earning, for taking care of our children, and looking forward to something. After learning Bhagavad Gita, their life is going to still remain the same, but now we are going to get an awareness that this work that I'm doing is how I'm doing, right? Why I'm doing, and who is this for? And with that awareness, so it is Bhagavad Gita is not going to alter our lifestyle, but it is going to change the perspective that we have towards life. That is the most easiest thing that can ever help us, right? That is what we are looking for. We all wanted to change, we all wanted to take charge of the ship, but only thing we wanted is there any easy way? You wanted to go to the 50th floor. There is a building, you want to go to the 50th floor. There are two ways. One is you can go up the stairs, and there is an elevator that is just waiting with its doors open. Which one would we prefer, right? You just go into the elevator and then just in few seconds you're there up the 50th floor, than putting in a lot of effort, right? That is where Bhagavad Gita stands out. Bhagavad Gita is like an elevator, whereas staircase is like the Vedas or any other means for that matter. So this Bhagavad Gita, it also says that, how do I change the perspective? That means that my mind should be prepared for that, in order to see the things that I'm doing right now with a slight bent of mind, with a divine bent of mind. I'll be able to see it differently, then I'll be able to do those things, right? So many things that we would have encountered in life, that all the time we will be looking at from one angle, and we will say, no, I'm not going to do it, I don't want this, I am not interested in it. But moment you get, if anyone around you says that no, this has That special thing, you might want to just think about it. The moment someone gives that input, then we will start looking at it from a totally different angle. Now you will be totally interested in doing that all along that you have been refusing to do, right? That slight shift in the mindset is what Bhagavad Gita is trying to give to all of us, and that is what we needed also. And before, in order to get that slight mental shift, Bhagavad Gita knows that our first knowledge is about who we are. That has to descend in our mind. Now, all along we are thinking that this is my body and this is who I am. But Gita slightly alters that and says that you are not only your body, there is multiple levels of existence inside you. Body is only the external layer, and there is another layer inside you that is called the mind. So you have one more layer of existence, which is mind. And beyond mind, there is one more layer called buddhi. That is another layer of existence. Beyond buddhi, there is the last level that is called the atma. And that can never be destroyed, and that never has a birth or death. So that when a person dies, it is just this body dies, falls down to this earth, but that atma, the innermost existence of this human, always lives. That knowledge Bhagavad Gita tries to impart to us, Krishna is trying to give us. Once we get that knowledge about that atma of multiple layers of existence, then the way that I look at a problem in life, a situation in life, anyone in life, it will be totally different. And because we started looking from the atma, not from our external eyes, because eyes always will lie. Innermost atma can never lie. We know once we start looking at every human being, then the uniformity comes, because that constant atma is there in everyone. We will start looking at everyone as uniform entities and not like Ram or Krishna or Gopal or, right? They are just the names that is different. That is what Bhagavad Gita takes. So what it does is it takes a step by step approach to prepare us to accept the realities in life. That is the fundamental objective of Bhagavad Gita. It recognizes that not all people are eligible, not all people will be in a mood to learn Bhagavad Gita and appreciate the knowledge that it provides. And so it just welcomes. First of all, Bhagavad Gita itself is embedded inside Mahabharata. The only objective that Krishna took birth on this earth is to give Bhagavad Gita. And he didn't give it the moment he was born, which he could have easily done. But he had to create a huge 125,000 verses Mahabharata, right? In that Mahabharata story, so that we all listen to the story nicely, and then, oh, these are there, the characters are there, and then slowly he is getting us into the knowledge part, so that we are not baffled, because he knows that we like stories, and through stories it is easy to reach anyone's mind. That is why story is being imparted first, and Bhagavad Gita itself is introduced later. Now, if you look at the entire Mahabharata, there are few jewels. One is Vishnu Sahasranama. We all know that. Bhishma. So 10th day of the war, Bhishma, when he was lying on the bed of arrows, recited the Vishnu Sahasranama. That was Krishna motivated Dharmaputra to go and listen to the great Bhishma, who can speak about the value of life and value of that Paramatma. And that is how Vishnu Sahasranama was born. And then another jewel is Bhagavad Gita, of course. The reason is one was spoken by a devotee, which is Bhishma, and the other was spoken by Krishna himself. There are other nuggets of wisdom also in Mahabharata. Vidura Niti is one more thing, where Vidura spoke about the dharma of life. Maybe that is for after we finish complete the Bhagavad Gita, we can take a look at that Vidura Niti also. Then Yaksha Prashna is one more jewel that we can adopt in our life. That is spoken by Dharmaraja to Yudhishthira. Out of this, today we have decided to talk about Bhagavad Gita, learn more about Bhagavad Gita, and that there cannot be any other text or scripture that can be matching to the greatness of the Bhagavad Gita. No wonder that it has been translated in so many languages around the world. No other text, no other work, literary work, has ever been translated in so many languages but Gita. That itself explains the reason why Gita is so much useful and it can be so much powerful to one's life. And many people who hail from India turn their heads away from Gita, while many others who are living, who are not at all known to India, Europeans and others, they have taken note of Bhagavad Gita. They translated the work. They started applying it in their schools and educational institutions. Many research institutes, many universities around the world have undertaken the work of studying and researching in Bhagavad Gita to extract deeper meanings from it. They all are doing it for a reason, right? So now such a wonderful work spoken by Krishna in the battlefield to Arjuna comprises of 18 chapters, 700 slokas. 700 slokas spread across 18 chapters form the Bhagavad Gita. It was so lucidly intertwined into Mahabharata that it was just a casual dialogue between two friends, Arjuna and Krishna. They are the best friends, right? So it is just a recording of the dialogue between two friends. That is how our mind will just accept it. Right? That is when it will accept. So it has been so nicely presented to us. When in these days, right, recent days, if two friends meet, they end up in a bar. But in those days, two friends met in a war. Not in a bar, but in a war. And they brought out this wonderful, text that became the tool for peace and happiness for every one of us. Now, the next time we speak to our friends over phone, we should actually think about it. Are we making history? Right? Or it is just like a normal talk. Right? We have to just bear those in mind. Now, before we start into Bhagavad Gita, dive into the first verse, first chapter, first verse, I'd like to say a few words to all of us. How to listen or how to make use of this session, right? We are going to meet every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Starting today. I know that many of you in this group have been listening and attending the Monday 6:30 sessions, and we have successfully were able to finish Mahabharata. Most of you were there. I'm glad. Now you have enough backstory, enough information to relate to Bhagavad Gita. But people who have just joined are not still at a loss, because the most important text is going to be in the next few weeks. And so you all are right on dot. How can we make use of this Monday 6:30 sessions, which is this, right? in my opinion, this is what I would recommend. uh, if you can do this, then you can take maximum out of it. You wanted to go to a well and then get as much water from the well. What is that we should do? We have to have first a bowl that is deep enough and broad enough, right? So one, if the bowl is huge with a wide mouth, wide opening, then it can draw out more water from the well. Same way, I would request all of us to have a broad, open mind in accepting and reflecting whatever that is being said, right? Than having, if I have a smaller bowl, then I can only draw only as much water. That is one. The next one is how much I prepare myself for this session. As much we can all, I meaning each one of us, prepare for the session is as much we can draw out from this session. So towards that, if you can, number one is 6:30 Monday, we know. So prepare yourself, identify a spot in your house, right, or even in the park if the weather is good, and make sure that we go to that spot every Monday 6:30. The reason is it works magically, believe me. Every time you go to that spot and start doing anything, it can be yoga practice, it can be listening to session, it can, our mind naturally goes into that listening mode. Unlike one day, one week we sit in the kitchen and then we listen, another week we sit in the living room, another week we sit in the patio, then it is our mind gets mixed information. It doesn't know what we wanted to do. We wanted to focus or not focus, right? We are giving mixed information. So you won't be able to get good experience. That is number one. Number two, see if you can attend this session from a laptop where you are free, hands free, right? If it is phone, maybe you can put it there and then listen to it. That is also okay. But if you, at times I'm planning to bring up, share some screens. So with the, in the phone, it won't be that good, right? So that also will make a good reason for you to log in from a laptop. And when you log in from a laptop, you make your mind serious enough. I'm on this job, I wanted to get my life back on track and under my grips. I don't want my life to drift away, right? That seriousness, when are we going to, if we instruct to our mind, it listens to it. That is number two, a laptop and a secluded place where we won't be disturbed for the next at least 45 minutes to 1 hour, right? So that others also know and we also know that we won't be disturbed. We can focus fully on what is being discussed. That is one. And then other one is, if you can, if you already have a Bhagavad-Gita book with you, you can have that ready handy so that you can reference, right, what which sloka is being said, because 700 slokas and it is easy to get off track. So it is better to have some kind of a log, have a notebook also and write it down, because at times when you listening, you will get some better ideas, interpretations, and you might be able to relate immediately. Write it down, then write down the notes. Why do we write down the notes? So that we refresh our own mind for the next class, when the next session 6:30, right, 15 minutes before, if you can just browse through your own writings, you will get a better reflection of what we learned before, so that you are in tune for the new knowledge that we will be acquiring that day, right? That is the best way, in my opinion, to go back to back and put ourselves seriously in the learning path. Let me go just one step, let me take the liberty to go one step ahead and uh, ask you to just think of it like you have enrolled in an university for learning Bhagavad Gita. How about that, right? Master of Arts in Bhagavad Gita, right? Then how will we do it? Every week it's a class, so it's a 1 year course or 2 year course. We'll just do more sincerely, right? So that is how we should actually do it. And so that is something that I wanted you to say. Last one I want you to watch out is this. It might look like, okay, this is how it's going to be. Maybe I'm not understanding anything, right? Halfway through, or even one or two classes, after two, three sessions, you might think like, okay, it looks like I'm not getting anything, right? Most of us think that when we start something. At that time, I would want you to just, if you need some help, like, to maintain some interest, just pause and then relax and look back, reflect, and rejoin. Try to be part of this session, even if we may not be able to understand, because it's only through practice. If the words just fall in our ears, then it will have its effect. It is being said about Bhagavad Gita that 700 slokas, if you know it, it is best. If you can't read 700 slokas, it is just enough if you know about one verse, one sloka. You can't even, you are too busy or you are not able to understand one verse, that is okay. It is enough if you just learn one line of the sloka. Oh, if you are still busy, if you are still not able to understand, that is okay. Half of the sloka is enough. Half also is too much. One fourth of the sloka is enough. One fourth also is too much. One word is just enough. That is how, since 5,000 years ago, people have been transmitting or transferring their knowledge from generations to generations by saying this. The value is in one word of a sloka. If we start looking at it that way, if you are able to attend for probably 2 3 months and get whatever sloka, that is still is a value. And Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he says clearly that the effort that you put in this, in trying to better yourself and create a different version of yourself, will never go wasted, Arjuna. Whatever your efforts you put in will never go wasted. So try to do your best. That's what he advises. So as much as possible, try to be part of it instead of dropping out. Dropping out is like you're dropping out of MA Bhagavad Gita. So if you think of it that way, then you don't want to drop out of this. And imagine that you have sent a PayPal of 8,000 US dollars for joining this course. Imagine, you don't have to do it. Then you will not drop out, right? At least virtually think about it that way. The reason I'm saying that all those things is I don't need any money and all. Just because I brought that up, don't think that, oh, he's looking for 8,000. No, I wanted us, all of us, to know the seriousness of it. If it is only money, then, just visualize it that way, then you will get the seriousness of it. Now let's move on to the first session of our first sloka, first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. First sloka goes like this. Dharmakshet Dhritarashtra uvacha Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamakah Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. So that is the sloka. So there are two people who are being referenced here. Dhritarashtra is the one who is saying this sloka. Dhritarashtra and Pandu were brothers. 5,000 years ago, there was a kingdom called Hastinapur that was next to New Delhi, right? Today's New Delhi. In the kingdom, there were two brothers, Dhritarashtra and Pandu. I know for people who have already attended Mahabharata, this will be kind of repetition, but I'll just wrap it up fast enough so that the rest of the people are already ahead of, in terms of what we are talking about, right? Who is Dhritarashtra? Sanjaya. Sanjaya, by the way, Sanjaya is the helper of the king Dhritarashtra. Let's see about the story first. Dhritarashtra and Pandu were two brothers, brother prince, who were in the kingdom of Hastinapur. Dhritarashtra was blind, and so he cannot rule the kingdom. The kingdom of Hastinapur was given to Pandu. Pandu was ruling Hastinapur. Dhritarashtra was married to Gandhari, and they had 100 children, all of them boys. Duryodhana was the eldest, Dushasana, and then many other brothers under him. Pandu married Kunti Devi. Kunti Devi delivered through her magical boon 5 sons. They were called Pandavas: Dharmaputra, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva. They were divine children of Pandu and Kunti Devi, and Madri also. So Kunti Devi delivered Dharmaputra, Bhima, and Arjuna. Madri delivered Nakula and Sahadeva. Pandu, even though he was the king, he didn't last long. He died soon. And so Dhritarashtra, the blind man, became the king of Hastinapura. The 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, starting from Duryodhana, along with 5 sons, they all were living in the same palace initially. And they had a common acharya called Dronacharya. Dronacharya was he taught impartially to Duryodhana's 100 brothers and Pandava brothers. Under his school, he taught archery and horse riding and military warfare, right? Including Vedas, Vedangas, Upanishads, everything. So he imparted, in those days, it is not just for this teacher go here, that teacher go here, right? So one teacher is expert in everything. He's a master of all. Dronacharya was a Brahmana. And even though he was a Brahmana, he was an expert in Kshatriya warfare. How a strategic, what are the strategies to adopt in a war? Now, initially, everything was good, but later on, Duryodhana started harboring some kind of evil hatred against the Pandavas. He wasn't for any of the good things to happen to the Pandavas. He was so jealous that Arjuna was so skilled at archery. He was even more envious that Bhima was so stronger than himself, Duryodhana himself. And so all these things made him slowly started inflicting injuries on the Pandavas, either directly or indirectly. And as the enmity grew in him, when they all grew up, he went to the extent of demolishing, destroying them once and for all, because Duryodhana was worried that his chance to become the king will be robbed by Yudhishthira, Yudhishthira being the eldest. Duryodhana was thinking that Yudhishthira might snatch it. And so he invited Yudhishthira and the brothers for a game of dice. In that game of dice, he tricked them. And then they lost everything. Pancha Pandavas lost all their valuables, including Draupadi, and they were insulted, humiliated, and driven away to the forest for 12 years in exile, and plus one more year in incognito. After 13 years, they struggled, they toiled, they returned to Hastinapur. Pancha Pandavas returned to Hastinapur, asking Duryodhana for their share of the kingdom, saying that now that it's all done, give us our share. Duryodhana wasn't interested in, even then he was showing that enmity. He was not willing to give even a needle point of land. He drove them away. And so later on, Krishna acted as a mediator between the Pandavas and the Duryodhanas. But it didn't help. Duryodhana insulted even Krishna also, and he said that nothing, I am not prepared to give anything. If it is war, then so be it. I am ready for the war. And so now, since all efforts didn't bear any fruit, Pandavas, along with Krishna, decided to go on a war with Duryodhana. Dhritarashtra, who was blind and who is the father of Duryodhana and other brother 199 brothers, didn't act or do anything, intervene and say that what you're asking is mean, is greed. He didn't say anything. He just patiently observed because of the affection that he had towards his children. And so now he is sitting at home and he is listening to his assistant Sanjaya. Sanjaya was his helper. All time Sanjaya stayed with Dhritarashtra. Because Dhritarashtra was blind, Sanjaya was able to, had the divine potential to see, things in his mind that happened far, far away. Right now, because that talks all didn't bear any fruit, Pandavas and Duryodhanas are ready to go on a war. They are in the battlefield, ready to launch the war, the first day of the war. That is where the first shloka began. And now Dhritarashtra is so worried, sitting in his palace. Oh, in that war field, what is happening, Sanjaya? That is what he is asking in the first verse. Sanjaya, with his blessings from his Acharya, has the divine power to see remotely what is happening. This is just like our modern day live shows, right? When something else happens somewhere, right now it's happening, right? I'm speaking live and you all are able to sit at your home and watch. The same thing, same power Sanjaya had. He was able to see right in front of his eyes, through his inner eyes, the ability of what is happening in the war field. And he was able to, ball by ball, right? They say screen by screen. He was able to see screen by screen as it happens, what is happening, and report it to Dhritarashtra. That is why Dhritarashtra is happening. I don't have eyes, Sanjaya. What is happening? You have special eyes. Now you view through that divine eyes, and I'm curious to know what is happening. He's asking. The sloka again, let me read it and then we will know the meaning of it. Dhritarashtra uvacha. Dhritarashtra said, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. In the holy place of Kurukshetra, having gathered with a desire to fight, Mamakah Pandavas Chaiva, my sons and Pandu's sons, Kimakurvata Sanjaya. What did they do, Sanjaya? So he is now interested. He is so, he is not having his eyes, but he doesn't even have his intelligence too. You are going into the kitchen. Hey, you went into the kitchen to eat. So what are you doing now? Will anyone ask that? We know that you went into the kitchen for eating. You will eat, right? Now he is asking, my sons and Pandu's sons have gone into the battlefield. What are they doing? They will battle, right? But the reason is so worried. That's why he's asking he's nervous. And so he's putting the question inappropriately. He's asking, Mamakah, my sons. He wanted his sons to win. Pandavas Chaiva, and also Pandu's sons, what are they doing at this moment? Is the question. With that, we have understood the meaning of this first sloka today in Bhagavad Gita. I don't want to overload you with a lot of information. Already I'm thinking that I've overloaded you. So let us stop here. And this, if you have observed, I did sing it in English also. I'll try to do it as much as possible so that the meaning becomes obvious instead of just me reciting in Sanskrit alone. Wherever possible, wherever it is appropriate, I will use English sloka reciting also, which will make it easier for our discussion as well. With that, we come to the end of this session. I will see you all positively next Monday at 6:30. Thank you all. मङ्गलाशासनरैर्मदाचार्यपुरोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्यैः सत्कृतायास्तु मङ्गलम्. सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु.